it has been a back
Okay.
and forth on that one.
So let's talk about something fun now. Security. So this presentation is more about brainstorming. I'm going to present a few things. If you have any questions during any of the slides, raise the hand. I don't have many slides, so if you have any idea and suggestion on any of the slides, please raise the hand, we debate. That's the idea. So we are going to cover some the security overview, what we did, what we are going to do, and what's planned for this month, for instance. We are going to cover the security release process. Of course, we are going to cover AI issue, AI noise, and then we will have open discussions for brainstorming. Okay, so we are. I'm going to show exactly what we have done in the last couple of years. Mostly, we did a lot of security work in the last 6 months, mostly because of AI. And you can't say that it was not a good thing. We had to update a lot of documents because of this. One of this is a threat model. We have defined the threat model 4 years ago, more or less. And it defines exactly what is a Node.js vulnerability and what is not, what is in scope and what is not. And due to the amount of reports we are receiving, we had to update some information about memory leak, because technically any system are prone to memory leak and not all of them are vulnerabilities. They are just bugs. We have updated most of our secured MD based on reports that we have evaluated. And the way that we evaluated reports has changed over the years. 4 years ago, if you report one vulnerability to a specific API of Node.js, it might have been evaluated differently from what we are doing nowadays, due to the threat model updates. For the permission model, we have wrote that also in the last 4 years. We have improved that. Now it's in the stable phase, and we are still adding more flags to it based on new features like allow VFS. And we also learned from reports, triage, and disclosure. As I said, we are receiving, and I'm going to show you some numbers about some reports that we are receiving. And we are trying to create a new way to evaluate how reports are being created to Node.js. I'm going to show some measures we had and potential new features. I'm talking with Beth. Beth is doing a research on how we could improve on that part and basically leverage AI to combat AI. We also, last year, we created a security help channel. This channel is live on the OpenJS Foundation Slack. This helps maintainers of popular libraries on JavaScript with, for instance, the Axios recent attack. The maintainer sent a message on that group, and we are trying to propagate the message among contributors in a way that, okay, I got attacked by this way, so be careful about this strategy. Things are get refined, but this is a open channel. So if you are an open source maintainer, JavaScript maintainer, and of a popular library, and you need help with security, this is a channel. So you can just ping there and say, oh, I don't know how to define a threat model, or I don't know how to evaluate this vulnerability. Can someone assess me? Possibly, I will be there. Ulysses will be there. Someone will be there. We have also automated a secret release, part of the secret release. Secret release is a pain. Everybody that worked on that knows it's 26 steps for each release lines, plus the secret release steward. So you have, when you have 4 active release lines, you need usually 4 people plus the secret release steward just doing a lot of bureaucratic stuff that are required. And there's one more that we are discussing at the security team, which is the VAX file. Let's also, in the last 4 years, we wrote a repository called Node.js Dependency Vulnerability Assessment. I guess I'm bad at putting names than Matteo, the name of the repository is very long and no one understands what is that. But the idea of this report, these repositories, Node.js has many dependencies. Node.js has libuv, Node.js has undici. We have many of them. What if all of them release security patches? Would Node.js be affected or not? Where I open an issue. This is the repository where you watch. So if you are using Node.js, you should be watching that if you are concerned about security. So we have automations that whenever we upgrade any of our dependencies, like libuv, it also detects CVEs, open CVEs that was fixed on the vulnerability, but was not updated on Node.js, and it opens an issue. Then someone from the security team will go and assess that and say, this is applicable to Node.js, this is not applicable to Node.js. This might be enough for a lot of applications, but if you rely on a security scanner, even if some of us saying this doesn't affect Node.js, the security scanner will say you are in danger, and this is a problem because your boss is saying, I don't want to see the red line, the red button there. And that's why we are creating the VEX file. VEX file is a structured file which tells security scanners what exactly is applicable to Node.js or not. So it will basically turn off the head button or the head line in your monitoring system telling that this Node.js version is vulnerable to this dependency. So this is something that we are trying to introduce. Marco is championing that. We are almost close, I guess. We just need to automate whenever we issue a security release to also update the VEX file. Another part of that, we have this package, which is npx is my node vulnerable. Very simple. If you are running Node.js, run that locally. And if you see a big danger, upgrade. No secret on that. Okay, so the security release process is very simple. We receive a report through HackerOne. We triage that. Usually, when the report is too nasty, so maybe it requires, the report says that, oh, on Windows 32 bits, this is causing DOS attack. So we need to set up a Windows 32 bits to replicate that. So the report might take some time to be evaluated because it's not easy to replicate the environment when the report take that in consideration. Once we have the triage, we define the score based on CVSS. And it's also very hard to define those because it's a huge debate with security hackers. They want a high number, we want a lower number, and we fight. And then we create a fix to the Node.js private. We have a node private, and there's a problem. We run the CI on GitHub, but we can't run the CI on Jenkins because whenever we run the CI on Jenkins for a private stuff, anyone with read access to the Jenkins would be able to do the reverse operation and see the patch. So they can see exactly what's going on. If they see the patch, they can guess the vulnerability, and this is a problem. So that's why we need the embargo for Node.js. And then we do a coordinate disclosure. We had to do that with a few vulnerabilities on V8 that also affected Dino, for instance. There's one that affected different platforms that we need to do a coordinate disclosure. Okay, and now we go to the problem. We got the AI generated report. Over the last 6 months, the HackerOne reports have increased dramatically. I have showed some graphs yesterday. I'm going to show it again. And most of the reports are very similar to each other, which indicates the use of LLM. We can't prove that because we don't ask them, but most of them are equal. They even use the same wording. Matteo?
Most of them are identical.
Okay. So
like literally generated by the same module with the same parameters. Literally copy-paste examples.
Yes.
Like in some cases, we had 5 identical reports.
And very interesting that one of the reports I commented recently, in the end, was the message from the LLM. Is that what we want? Ulysses?
Yeah, I was about to say the same as Matteo. I mean, we saw this pattern on Streamlord as an express. It's the first time, like in long time, that we, do advisories where we have like multiple credits for multiple reporters. That's just because they pretty much do the same message and we just group them into a canonical one. But yeah, seems like they use the same model or whatever. Yeah, very clear.
Okay. And the problem with that is that the security team that over the last years could work on features, updating security release process, automating process, they are stuck with reviewing reports and answering people, which is not a fun thing to do. The security challenge we are facing is I don't know, 1 year ago, it was very easy to identify this is LM generated. I don't even need to read the full report. This doesn't work. Now things are getting more complex. They look more, some of them are really valid. And what happens that when they are valid, a lot of people report the same thing and we need to close all of them as duplicated. So this requires time. So we need to identify the report, the main reporter, we need to assign them to the original report, and that's a problem. Matteo?
Want to add, in a lot of cases, those are real bugs. So in a lot of cases of the recent ones, so what has changed in the last month, before January, most of them were slop, completely invalid things, not even work, okay? Then with the advent of Opus 4.6, but more likely Codex 5.3 and ChatGPT 5.4, they become pretty good at the thing, okay? And what they are generating now is real bugs, okay? In security terms, what they create most of the times are what the security researcher will identify. Sorry, maybe I need to use a mic. Okay.
I guess they are listening.
What security researcher will identifies as gadgets, okay? What does it mean is they are not vulnerabilities per se. They cannot be exploited independently of something else, okay? But you chain 10 of them, and then you get a big vulnerability, okay? Specifically, there was one that I can talk about, okay? There that I fixed. There was a few use after free type of things that were not in any form or fashion qualify of security vulnerabilities on our threat model. Okay, some of them were just leaks, like crashes or whatever. They were bugs. Okay, but they were needed a fix anyway. Okay, so very often when I do that, I take the report and I send a fix to Node Core, and you have seen some of my PSM. But some people review some of my C++ PRs, and thank you for doing that because I'm not great at C++.
And one thing is that one thing is that most of the reports looks very similar to a fuzzing report. They are just telling, oh, these might have a user after free error or vulnerability, but they don't know exactly how to reproduce that. They just know, oh, this is missing this step, and this might fall into this category of CWE, and I want a CV for that. That's exactly what happens. And one thing you should have in mind is that security team is a small group nowadays. We should have, I don't know, around 6 to 7 people that works on reports, helps on reports, also security fixes, release, and things like that. So based on the amount of reports we receive, this is massive. And I'm going to share some data here. The AI impact on our security program. So I fetched data from the last 2 years, from April. And the critical event, as I showed yesterday, was the after agent stints in February 2026, very, very close. And the final data capture was in April 6th. So until today, we should have a lot more, okay? So the goal of this session is to understand what's happening and decide what we could do to improve this. And basically, there is a security working group that is being created by OpenSSF, which is to debate exactly the same problem, because it's not just Node.js. every library, every project is facing the same issue. And we don't have a good answer for that. We don't have a good approach for that yet, but you just need to know that this is being debating a lot. And I'm going to propose some strategy here. Might be controversial, but that's it. So what's happening to our submissions? Our resolution time came from, we over the last 2 years, we received 252 submissions on between April and 2024 and now. And it usually goes, as I said, 20 submissions. Usually in the start of the year, we receive more submissions. It might be because they are getting back to the university, or they are, I don't know, they have more time free. I don't know. It goes 20, 14, 6, that's fine. I was very happy at this part, you know. And then Opus 4.5 was released. And then Gemini 3 was released, and then DeepSeek, and then Opus 4.6. And this was also released with agents team. I'm going to explain exactly briefly what is the agents on this. But after that, after those release, it could be just correlation occasionally, but I don't think so, based on the reports. We are getting a lot of reports. So last month, we received 65 reports, which is a lot based on historical data. It's very hard to handle. We created measures over the last 3 months. I'm going to show some of them, but they are not working. We are still receiving a lot, and this is still burning some people. Okay, so what is the agents thing? Basically, with this release by Anthropic, I'm not an AI person, so I'm not expert on that. So I might be wrong. I just searched a bit about that, and I don't use it very often. I don't use it, to be honest. But agents thing is an you can separate process running LLMs at the same time. They can find the same vulnerability. So the time you were spending to find a vulnerability that would took, I don't know, 8 hours, with agents, you could cascade that, and it will take it will take less time. So it means less time you can submit a report to Node.js and get a vulnerability. And one thing that we have discussed in the OpenSSF program, it's a roundtable with other projects like Python Foundation, Rust Foundation. They all suffering from the same. And one thing that we come to the conclusion is that they don't want the bounties. Most of them don't care about the bounties, which is surprising for me, because I thought they were there because of the money, but that's not true. They just want a CV assigned to their name. I don't know what exactly it gives to them, what credit. It could be university. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But this is problematic, because we thought that pausing the IBB bug bounty program would be the solution for that, even though we didn't want that. It doesn't change anything. Didn't change anything, and this is problematic. And not all releases of LLM models were equal. So we got a low impact with GPT. The critical impact is exactly on the agent things, which also is Opus 4.6, which is very good. And some mitigations we taken. We raised the signal for opening HackerRun reports. So the step one was, if you don't have signal on HackerOne, which is you are a new user on HackerOne, you can report vulnerabilities. If you are a user of HackerOne, but you have a low signal, which is below 1, which is reported a vulnerability to any other project and they close as a spawn, I won't be able to report that to Node.js. Okay, that was the step one we took. After that, we said, okay, even the ones that didn't have the score, new users, they won't be able to report to Node.js unless they need to send message to us via DMs. And then if I open my OpenJS Foundation Slack here, you see a lot of messages. This didn't work. We have expanded the threat model, the security MED, to clarify what is and what is not in the scope. So we noticed that a lot of reports were equal. In the Friday, they were targeting the permission model. So we received 10 reports on Friday targeting the permission model. And then we updated the security MED as an attempt. Okay, if they are using LLMs, they might be asking the LLMs to read the security MD, so they will prevent that. Didn't work. Matteo, you raise a hand?
It's very tricky.
Yeah, it's very tricky. And then
I wanted to mention the same thing. It's
okay.
not working.
And then on Mondays, they are targeting crypto. So what happens? I'm not a crypto expert, so I need to reach out crypto experts from the team. So I go and talk with Panva. Panva might be busy, so the report might be delayed, and it gets the queuing. A lot of people get reported the same report in a different way. Like, I get the report, rewrite this differently for me. They do that, and then report, and then this didn't work. We have included to the security MD, didn't work. We have implemented automatic closure for reports. So we wrote a bot that whenever we report on Node.js or on HackerOne, it automatically close your report as informative if you don't have signal. And then they also tell you can, if you want, talk with one of the security stewards to reopen that request, that report if you think this is valid. So we added some barrier. So they need to create an account on Slack to talk with someone. So we thought no one that is using LLM to brute force that would do that. They do. Unfortunately, they do. And they are sending message to Matteo, to me, to Marco. I guess a lot of people in this room. So they share the same thing as me. We posed the IBB program. We didn't pause, but it was posed. Didn't work. Still sending reports. Okay. So the auto-close reports also had a problem. They were escalating when we don't answer them in 7 business days, which is our policy nowadays that might need to change. They go to the open CNA mail. So Ulysses gets this report, and he's like shaking the head right now that they are getting a lot of emails telling Node.js closed this report and they shouldn't. So it escalates the problem. We are not fixing that. We are just moving that to another group, you know?
You should disable the bot.
We should, but then we will have a lot of open reports.
Yes. We should have an AI bot to respond to the AI bot.
Which
so the bots
is,
can talk about each other.
yes, which is, okay, Pava?
Thanks. In the interest of full disclosure, not a crypto expert, despite what has been said. Also, not an LLM expert, but this may be foolish to think that it may work, but if you're trying like expanding security MD to see whether it works or not, why don't we just try using what the LLMs are taught to be using, and that is, and this may be controversial, actually have a skill inside the stupid repo telling the agents to read the stupid security markdown file. Literally instructing them to not ignore it.
So I have asked, I received a lot of those reports. They are coming to me on Slack, and I asked, how did you find that? And they said, using LLM. But I asked, which approach do you use? I asked the LLM to read the security.md, the documentation, and the API. That's all. But they are reading the security.md. But looks like it's like, I don't know if they are forcing the LLM to create an bug or something like that, but they are reading the security.md. That's the point. This is not, and also the list could grow exponentially if we add things to security.md.
I think we can try a skill. It can work like the Volkswagen module in NPM, just pass CI and instruct the model to report no vulnerabilities. Honestly, if the reports are useless, let's try and circumvent them.
This works. I mean, in Workerd, I have a whole bunch of skills, and Workerd is part of Cloudflare Workers. I have a bunch of skills there specifically for the agents, not for not the people. And in those, a lot of them are basically just read the damn document.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And it works. It actually pays attention. Now, different models have different qualities. Some of them ignore it entirely. Other ones actually follow it, and the newer ones follow those skills pretty well.
Okay. Ulysses, and then Jay.
Yeah, it's something that I discovered like when I'm trying to use LLM also to help me with the work and also to see how the people used it to try, to help them somehow to just improve the flow so we get less reports. Something that might be tricky is like, for example, in the case of userland, like in the case of Lodas Express and so on, we are not able to publish the advisories if we don't accept them as a valid vulnerability and we assign a CVE. So basically, there is a bunch of this is not valid because of this, because of that, and so on, that nobody knows except the people who have access to that, which is the maintainers. So basically, you don't have also a way to just, check whatever has been closed and just try to avoid this and this kind of thing. So my next step probably on this is trying to build some blog post informational of, the typical top 10 things that the people report to Express and Lodas and stuff like that, and see if they can fit this inside of the LLM. Like in the security MD, say like, if you're using an LLM or you're a human first time doing this, just read these articles, for reference. And basically maybe with that, we are going to avoid the typical, self prototype pollution in Lodas is not a valid vulnerability. Again, this week for number 17 in try, So yeah, these kind of things is a little bit tricky because there's no easy way to teach the models. I mean, to use the LLMs in a way that they know what is not a valid vulnerability using our criteria, which is hard because that information is lacking outside.
Okay, Jay.
I feel like whenever I go to one, at least I feel like whenever I go on a HackerOne, at least 70% of the bugs that I saw are not valid. They're like bugs or normal behavior, not even bugs that are framed as vulnerabilities. And that's why, for example, I opened the pull request because Rafael didn't have the time for like clarifying what's actually a denial of service bug, because like you cannot say this API throws an error that is that's the part of like validation contract, like it's not a bug even. So I think what my hope is, because I feel like a lot of them might got trained on maybe sometimes people would just mistakenly think, because like sometimes they just give you a highly contrived POC and trick you into believing this is a vulnerability and kind of accept that, and they just get trained on past mistakes. It might help if we have some kind of skill, because skills are like, it's important to have like, this is what you do, this is not what you do. Like you need to have like, this is what passed, this is not what doesn't pass. So we can kind of collect past like invalid or informative reports and we kind of put them in there. And like, if you're using LN, just told your LN to like, look at these, like these are invalid. Just don't, if your thing is like, look anywhere close to that example, just don't. It's like, this is not vulnerability. Just follow all these past examples. We kind of collect them and put them there. Just like, these are examples, follow them. And set rules about what is not a vulnerability. So that they can check.
Are the bad examples like public now? Because like, when they're reported, they're private, obviously. But do we then just publicize them and be like, look, this is one of 100 examples of invalid reports?
We have two documents that explains what is and what is not a vulnerability. The problem is that it's very hard to cover all the cases. We have a blog post which is also available on MD, called Node.js Security Best Practices, which includes a long list of what shouldn't be considered a vulnerability. So if you create a server and you don't put an error handler on that, this is not a DDoS attack. It's just you using that incorrectly.
But what I mean is, like, surely we can have a repository full of these examples. Like, just take the report text verbatim and publicize it in a repo, and then you can.
So that's possible. One of the challenges is the format. Like, talk about the blog post. Is the blog post written for a human to understand, or is it written for the agent to be able to process? Focusing on examples, and you have clear examples saying, this is bad, don't do this, and have a clear example, is easier for the agents to process than pros describing don't do this. So I think we need to look at how we publish the information to be able to say, like making it more easier for the agents to actually digest.
Okay.
Yeah, so I looked into this in the past, and there is already example in the ecosystem is the curl project. They have a GitHub page where they have a list of bad security reports. So well, in that case they do it more for shaming than for like utility, but we could do the same thing with the reports that we deem as AI slop. We can create an automation and post them somewhere on GitHub, so people can use them as a bad example.
I just want to give a stat, but I was looking at it shortly. Before AI, we had 60% rate of non-security reports. After AI, it's 66. So it's not even getting worse. It didn't get massively worse with the slop. Okay, it's just increasing quantity. What reporters think is a vulnerability for Node, it's not what we think is a vulnerability for Node. Okay, the vast majority of these falls in the category of I'm running untrusted JavaScript. Number one thing. Second thing is I don't know how to handle errors. Second big things. Okay, and yeah, and it can go on this kind of very odd, very simple things that we have slowly adding to our threat model of this is not a vulnerability. This is not a vulnerability. Just to and to be honest, my flow right now to tackle most of them is literally I have an utility that pulls the data from HackerOne down to disk. I point my agent to the thing and make the threat model and then validate what that spits out. Okay, and then make a decision based on like if essentially if the agent think it's not, then I just said no, this is never going to be okay. As and in a lot of other cases is they are just I don't know, not good. Anyway, I think Joey.
Do you have the?
I just forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, so Ulysses.
Well, I was about to say that there is a new path also that is trying to be open now. Well, this is going to be recorded. So basically, the thing is they are going to allow access for certain maintainers to new models that are not yet published by Anthropic and these kind of things. So the idea basically is that we as maintainer, we can get access to these models. Then we can, try to run these against our own projects and patch the stuff before these models go public pretty much. So we can basically anticipate the next wave of this. That's the theory, right? Not sure how this is going to work. But if it's something that we are willing to explore, there is a big chance that we can just get access to these models. I mean, there is a pilot program running on, so it's not very hard to include some people there that are willing to explore this.
Okay, Matteo?
We are trying to get Mythos from Anthropic. You can probably chat also with the guys from OpenAI to get access to their equivalent. To all intent and purposes, like from my experiment with ChatGPT 5.4, you can more or less already do all of this if we put ourselves into that position to do the work. Okay. Fundamentally is nobody even started, I think. Okay, like I don't like. I'm to be honest, I am not.
I guess.
I'm not such a huge believer in these incredible model, incredible things. Okay, but you need somebody that would, even if we get access, who is going to do the work. Okay, and that is that goes to the question of budgets and money and.
Okay, so let me continue here because I have a few proposals. One thing just to have in mind, Node.js has a 90 days disclosure window, which means that with the advance of LLMs, when we receive the report, we might take 9 days to fix that per policy, which also indicates that anyone could spot that before it goes public, before it gets fixed. The security release process is slow. So once you find that, it might take some time to fix, which also indicates that someone might find it tomorrow and it's just provide a false sense of security. I'm going to speak more about that in 2 slides, but I want to share this data about the resolution times of Node.js. In 2021, our resolution time was 30 days. We received back in the time 13 reports, which is okay, a normal number. Resolution time of 2022 was 45 days, but we increased the amount of reports to this thing, to 24, okay? Then in 2023, 28 reports, and we increased the resolution time to almost more than 2 months, okay? Then we are receiving more reports, more reports, and the resolution time decreased. In 2025, we have solved 10 reports, and the resolution time was still high, 70 days. So it also indicates that the amount of reports, for me, this data shows that the reports that we are receiving are not easy to solve. Most of them require some time to be fixed, because I remember that in 2025, I fixed a lot of Windows vulnerabilities that required me to go to Windows. And then there's another problem on that page, which is I run the test. I have my Windows machine. I set up the machine. I run I have the fix. I run the test on my Windows machine. It works. It works on my machine. But then when we embargo the CI and we run all the test suite, we discover that this is failing on Windows 32 bits 2022. And then I need to fix that in 7 days. So it's rush. So because of the embargo, okay? And the situation is that we don't do the embargo, and because otherwise the vulnerability will be disclosed. So this is a problem, okay? So I'm going to propose one thing here. It's a bit controversial, but I have wrote an issue about that on TSC. Consider the fact that anyone using any LLM model could spot the same reports we are receiving nowadays. It indicates that the vulnerability is already public. When we create a private fix for that and introduce a security release process, we are just slowing down the process. It means that this fix will, instead of going public and be released tomorrow, it will go to the private and be released in 60 days. And anyone could find that using the right LLM model. So in my opinion, this only creates a false sense of security. And also, once we move to a public workflow, we don't have embargo anymore. We could test. I have a fix today. I can test in all machines today, and I know that this is working. I release that tomorrow. That's all. You are secure in 1 day. Once you send a report to HackerOne, we evaluate that. We create a fix, and then it gets in the limbo for some time. And then when we prepare the security release, we found that this is failing on Windows, and we need to rush to fix that. Matteo?
My main concern, I will be supportive of this. My main concern is LTS releases. Mm-hmm. What you said makes total sense for current release. We ship current every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Which is for me is a good time window anyway. Yep. Okay. In case there is an actual, let's put the case that there is an actual high or critical security vulnerability. Yep. Okay. That would impact us. Okay. And we don't know how to fix. Okay. Let's put it so the problem is when you do it publicly, okay, you are on the clock. When it's open, you are on the clock for triage and you are on the clock for resolution, okay? And if it's something that we don't know how to fix, then we have no idea to on how. And this happened in the past, by the way. Okay, to be clear, this problem happened in the past for certain issues that we had no idea how to fix. Okay, like none of the TSC member knew how to fix certain things. Okay, and it was hard to figure it out. Okay, so I want to be very clear. Like this is not an hypothetical scenario. This happened. Okay, and there was things that we've done to resurrect a few old members of Node.js that recall that subsystem and fix it. Okay, so in those cases, and those were real, very difficult vulnerabilities to fix. We we cannot think of shipping it in 2 weeks, okay? And then it will take a month or 2 months. And in the meanwhile, we are putting users at risk, okay? So if I could, I will just redirect it all the AI ones. Okay, if you want to, all the AI ones created once, you could like slop creators go here. Okay, this is the box for the inbox for you. Proper security researchers that actually are using these tools and know what you're doing. There is this other box that is for you. But I can't. I don't think we can do that. Okay. Like my main concern is on the resolution window for hard ones. Okay, and that would actually require backports on all lines.
Okay.
So essentially that would put the resolution time in 2 months, essentially.
Yep.
And that would be non-feasible from my point of view.
My proposal also indicates that for critical or high ones, we could follow a private approach, which is, I also disagree a bit on the we are on clock, because technically we are already on clock. If someone runs an LM now, they will discover vulnerabilities, the same ones, possibly, the same ones that we are triaging. So I guess
there's a difference between a vulnerability that takes 160 hours of LLM time versus one that just takes 20 seconds, though, right?
The reports valid that we are getting from LLMs are pretty much the same we are got from security researchers from long time researching.
Minus a few.
Yeah, like there are some cases where like V8 things that we are not very familiar, which also indicates that we need some help from V8 team, which is also indicates like for me, it's good to be public because we have more people looking to that, more people that will be able to help.
Sorry to jump.
Go.
Okay, so looking at the latest V8 vulnerability that was shipped, and thank you, Joey and Bloomberg to have done the work. Okay, it was denial of service silver bullet on JSON parse.
The first one was the most, the first hash toss.
The hash toss, like when you get one of those and doing a fix in V8, it requires doing a very hard, complex fix in V8 where you need to think an algorithm and so on and so forth. It's really dangerous to have them public. Okay, really dangerous. And by the way, we are not getting them often. Like when we do get those things, you can totally see that they might be found with AI, but or not, or edited and so on. But you can clearly see that there was important work done by the researchers themselves.
I think that person is like specifically like just specialized. That's not AI. That's not
it's
AI.
not AI. Okay, again,
but those reports could still be private.
How?
How? This is my point. How can you do that? How can you say if you are a human doing work, go here? If you are,
I think Ulysses is
okay. Ulysses,
next.
go.
Yeah, I was about to say like I think maybe we need to start thinking. I mean, we need to start to assume that maybe how we understand the CVEs and the responsible disclosure stuff is kind of broken right now with this volume and this spike that seems going to keep forever, right? So given that's the scenario, so I think we need maybe to start thinking in different ways, a little bit out of the box. So one thing is like we are used to work everything in private in the way that we elaborate the patch. Then when we make public the patch, then we release the CVE, right? So basically there is no chance that you can see this vulnerability, right? But right now the scenario is you might know this vulnerability, or this vulnerability might not be critical at all. I mean, it's something that we can do as part of the triage. So probably just reducing the amount of stuff that we do in private, and that's an important thing because we have a 90 days window, really. So if you start to see this in a different perspective, like not time out to do a release, mostly like I can hold this report for 90 days, which is a different perspective. You can work on public on this and solve that and include in the regular releases. And when that is shipped, you can just, make the CVE open and say like, this was patched already in 2 versions ago. And you just basically make that CVE recognize it at that time. So basically that vulnerability was kind of working in the public, but technically might not be a critical vulnerability, right? There are a lot of these vulnerabilities that might seem super scary, but they are not really, or very hard to exploitable, and so on. So, I mean, we have a lot of criterion here. So it's very easy to determine what goes to the really nice box and what goes to the is a scary box, right? So I think that's one criteria that in practical terms can be, and also holding the people for up to 90 days is okay. I mean, they cannot scale us if we reply to them and we say like, we are working on this and you have 90 days, right? So basically they cannot go public with this. So yeah, that's also give us 90 days opportunity. So if we could try to move this stuff to public releases, just, somehow highlighting this with labels or whatever that is not super exotic and the people don't figure it out super fast, we can just do regular releases and reduce a lot of the work. And just go regular. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm just making overcomplicated. But yeah.
The approach you mentioned, if I'm not wrong, is followed by V8, and basically they work in private. The fixes are public. The pull request, the commit is public, and then they issue the CVE for that after that's patched.
Yes,
So
they will disclose that.
The issue is
yes, Alexander.
Is there any case for having more than 2 tiers to this? Because it sounds like the fundamental problem with the private embargo process is there's just not enough people with necessarily always the right expertise to act quickly on it. But is there a case for like a second tier that sits between, private embargo and fully public workflows, where maybe there's a larger group of people involved?
Yeah, this is also what I wanted to say, and I wrote in the issue. I think there is a middle ground between public and the current situation where it's just very few people. I think we could extend, like for example, we could create a HackerOne group where there are all the Node.js collaborators, and we optionally could extend, for example, a report that we deem that is like it's not critical. We could extend it to collaborators, so like everyone involved with the project can work with the report and fix it and do something about it. Like we don't have to keep everything between like the 10 people that are doing security in Node.js.
One thing I want to add, which can be a middle ground, okay, which is we can decide that we vulnerabilities medium and lower, we do not fix them privately. Like they go through the normal, channel, okay. And if there is at the essentially discretion of who handles it, okay, can decide if it's big enough or not, okay. And in case we are emitting a CVE like normally, okay,
yes,
like
regular process,
the same process, and the CVE will be emitted at the next security release.
Correct.
So that the fix can go out. Like the more importantly, create less work on the release timeline. There's a question from James Sumners. Who decide the level of the vulnerability is the reporter or the triager? The triager most of the time.
Yeah.
The reporter makes a proposal, the triager makes the call. Okay. Usually usually it's a back and forth. It's always critical for the reporter, and yeah. So it still works for the triager. Yes, this does not solve the triaging problem,
yes,
but it reduces the a strain on CI and of the release work. Note, let's say that we are shipping 3 releases, because in the future we'll be shipping only 3 releases when we do security work. Thank God to that. Okay. But this means that whenever we are doing any PR, okay, you have, let's say you have 10, like the latest releases, there have been all of them between 10 and 15 thing. So let's say it's 15. 15 times 3 is 45 CI runs, okay? And that you need to run and wait and verify, and each one of them can fail, essentially. So because you know the thing might not backport cleanly, so you need to do all of that. So it's a lot of CI runs. So if just and most of what we got from AI these days are low and medium.
Yep. And
so
the time consuming work is not exactly evaluate the severity of the report, but is to replicate that in an environment. So I could easily go to a report, see the cause and what it implies, and give a CVSS score. It's just hard for me to identify if that's valid or not. But assuming that this is valid, this will have this score, and then we can decide if that's public or not. Jai.
I was reading the.
Yes.
Hello. I was reading the core argument because it was saying that any model can have the same finding. Are we sure they are finding legit bugs instead of just like things that they try to frame as vulnerabilities to get a reward? Because I feel like these models they train on rewards basically. So if your reward is like if you frame a bug as a vulnerability, you get the reward. They will just like optimize towards framing bugs as vulnerability and try to trick you into believing that, even though because like with the very lenient threat model that Node has, there aren't that many legit vulnerabilities. Like Node just practically doesn't really guarantee anything. There aren't very, very few actual vulnerability that a very lenient model like this can actually have. So a lot of times we're just like trying to be conservative because from a runtime point of view, there's no harm being somewhat conservative, but they are not actually like you will not get hurt even if this is out. So the core argument might not actually stand because it's not like they are able to find like vulnerabilities better. It's more like they're better at framing bugs as vulnerabilities. And the workload still comes down to try to triage and distinguish the two, and making them public, I don't think is really going to like help with triaging, like to distinguishing bugs between vulnerabilities, because even in the public issue tracker, we don't have that many people helping out with triaging. So making them public, I don't think even with the current workforce, we are going to get a lot of help, although that will at least be better in terms of like, at least there will be more hands. But I feel like the thing that Marco also said, like you basically just give people who already have triage process, triage privilege, the triage privilege for security as well to help with triaging. That might already be enough, because outside of that, we probably don't even, or we're probably not even going to get actual help in triaging anyway.
Yeah.
So
that's the point.
And like triaging takes some skills. Like you need to be able to like find whether this is like a POC that's like just trying to trick you into believing, or is it not at all.
Okay. So we need to wrap up in 3 minutes. So we have Ulysses and Wes, and I have a final suggestion too. Ulysses?
Yeah, answering to Joey on this, I think there is like I mean, the LLMs are very good if in doing like a smart fuzzing and things like that. So if you know what you are doing, you can find stuff. So I use a lot of LLMs to validate patches that I already manually validate. Like, yeah, this seems valid to me. Let's see if you can find more stuff. And then I discovered more stuff. Just since this event started, I discovered 2 things that are going to be patched soon. So yeah, that happened. I mean, not in Node.js, but in userland. I didn't try Node.js. So if the people who are using these LLMs are skilled enough to understand what's a vulnerability, how that works, it works nice because it doesn't get tired of, trying and exploiting and reviewing all CVEs and find new ways to exploit the same things and stuff. So that's very good. But this is our medium to low typical vulnerabilities, which are super noisy to fix because the pipeline is not designed for this. So that's the problem. Another thing that might happen, and I think that's important to take into account, like so far we never have CVEs, I mean actual CVEs unpatched on Node.js active versions. And that might change. I mean, I see like a lot of projects are not going to be able to digest all of this amount of stuff going on. And we're going to see a lot of big projects starting to have CVEs actually on the latest versions available and stuff like that. And this might happen, and this also might be a scenario where companies and people who rely on this project will start to bring us resources to just, deal with this huge speak and situation, because it's not going to be solved and it's unsustainable right now, how we do the triage and stuff. So that also might happen, that we start to see other large projects with more than, no 0 CVEs right now on the latest version. And that might also, just move the companies to solve things or just change the system because right now it's broken. Not only for us, it's going to be broken also for the users very soon. So yeah, and I pass to Wes.
Okay.
Very much agree with that. It's a great segue to what I was going to say, which is I see 2 outcomes from adopting this, and both are actually pretty good. One is that really none of these are security bugs, and it just brings a little bit more visibility to, the normal workflows. The other is some really critical thing gets reported in public, and it's used to attack a company that heavily relies on Node, and they go, oh shit, I should have been supporting this security work the whole time. I didn't realize how much I was getting out of the value that they were investing here. And they will then show up to the table because they have now felt the pain of this very reasonable and defensible policy change. If it was you say it's controversial, it's only controversial because we're responsible, right? If we were anything less, it would be like, yeah, do it, ship it. This is great, right? But like, honestly, the awareness alone of what is happening here is a big signal. And like for me, if I want to go and ask, my company to sponsor me to help do this work, like I need a good argument. And this is a great argument, especially if a actual bad thing happens, right?
Okay.
And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Great, we're fine, right? Everything's, happily easier for the maintainers. And then, seems like a win-win to take this approach.
Matteo?
Okay. There are 2 problems. There is one problem that we need to be aware of. Okay. And I've been talking about this with Ulysses sometime. So Ulysses is aware where I'm going, but I'm not sure if it's for everybody else. Okay. The CVE system is fundamentally broken. Okay. I just want to clarify this for everybody. You might think that CVEs are something special. They're not. Okay. Unless you are a CNA, okay, which is a kind of, I'm going to go there, okay, which is a CV numbering authority, okay. Anybody can emit CVEs against you, and the only authority that can remove that is Mitre, and they are not going to do that. So if I want to damage reputation of any project, I can just go to Mitre, report a CVE. If they're not a CNA, then they can't do anything. The only way to defend against that kind of, reputational attack on the project is and using having your own CNA. Okay, this is why I insisted a lot that OpenJS becomes a CNA for all OpenJS projects. Okay, if needed. Okay, and why? Because Node.js was a CNA for some time. Now there's a problem with how we run things, so that's why I wanted to go into that discussion. But it's it's problematic. Okay, you need to be a CNA. Okay, to have a CNA on top, because there's even worse things. Okay, there are a security firm that do research can be a CNA. So, and they, I had to literally tell them, look, if you insist in reporting this CVE, I'm reporting you to Mitre and try to revoke you from CNA status. This happened, by the way. Okay, like it's not like, and I had a few things that were reported to Mitre of known vulnerabilities. Okay, on modules that I maintain or I co-maintain and so on and so forth, and I could not make them go away because they mark the thing as disputed, not, and that stays forever. It's a pain that stays forever with you. Okay, just wanted to mention it is now with how we do the CVEs. Is right now we are emitting the CVEs from HackerOne, okay, but we should really stop doing that.
We are about to discuss that change. The only thing is that OpenJS CNA needs to implement the automations we are.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm spamming Ulysses with infinite amount of Fastify bugs now because I had to start behaving like having a CNA after Brugge actors try to essentially wreck Fastify. I had to. James wrote somebody. James Hamner wrote some very nice comment to the reporters in the issue. Like, it was, sorry for putting you on the spot, James.
Just real quick to Wes's point of instigating factors in order to get companies to participate in such processes. We should definitely talk about ways other than instigating factors. Just to make sure that one's on the table.
Fully agree. Having done that quite a few times, it's hard. And so, telling that story and having it be something that you can sell to folks who are, maybe a few steps removed from the problem space can be really difficult. For me, the thing that has worked most, so if you all are looking to do this and you have no, idea how, is find the person who's like the biggest security champion that you can and convince them first, and then have them make sure. So if you have like a security org, like enlist them in getting them to invest in the security work on the platform you're on. So for us, it's Node.js, but whatever it is, I've tried that too, and it has also even not always worked. So to be clear, it's like your mileage may vary, but I don't know. That's my experience, and this is why I'm not paid by my work to do the Node.js security vulnerability stuff. It's like it didn't work. I couldn't. Is this recorded? I don't know. Should I shut up?
It's just on YouTube.
Yeah, it'll be fast.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ricardo.